Hey everyone, it's Alison Heikkila. Thank you so much for joining me. Have you ever made a card and had an idea and then kind of switched paths and then later on you were like, maybe I should have done it a little differently, or maybe I should have gone back to that original idea, or maybe you weren't really sure what you were making and then you came up with something and then you realized there were things that you would switch? I know, I'm throwing a lot of questions at you, but I'm guessing that we've all gone through this, that at some point you make something and you kind of think that if you'd done things differently, it would be even better. So I've got this card and I really like it. I used the brand new Coastal Blooms HeroScape stamp set from Hero Arts. There's coordinating dies too, but I didn't need them for this card. And I just used some of the smaller elements to make this. And my original thought was to use a light blue colored cardstock as opposed to the red. But I don't know. I wanted that red bucket to really stand out. But then as I was making it, I said, you know what? I'm going to just go with red. And I feel like, although I like how this card came out a lot, I think it's now missing some of the point. I don't know. Red to me is just like loud and vibrant and happy and excitable. And I feel like for a Miss You card, it probably should have been the light blue. But I still do like it. So I decided that between the color of the cardstock that I used back here, plus a couple of other minor things, I want to redo this card for you. And I want you to tell me in the comments which version you like better. Or maybe there's certain elements in one that you like in one and versus the other. I don't know. Let's just start playing. I've got a couple of things I'm going to switch on this card, and I think it's going to wind up becoming even better. So again, we're not going to use the dies. I do have some cardstock already cut out so that I don't have to waste anyone's time with watching me do that. This is just about the same size as the other one. It's a little bit bigger, but not much. It's really not going to change anything. So to get started, I want to first stamp my bucket. So to stamp the bucket, we are going to use some Memento ink in Tuxedo Black. I'm going to be using some Copics to color today. Okay. Here's the card, the original card. We're going to just put that there so you can see it. It doesn't need to be exact. Stamp that on there. Very good. And then we're going to add our shovel. So this is one of the things that I wanted to do differently. Right now the shovel is just lying there. It's not really super dynamic in the composition. It's just kind of there, strewn across the sand. I want to make it look as though it's coming out of the sand. So how are we going to do that? So I'm going to ink this up. Okay, you can see that that's totally inked. But now I'm going to take my stamp chamois. I'll be honest, a lot of times I just use my finger for this because I don't really care if I get ink on me. I'm going to want some of this to get removed. Like so. Can you see that? You see how I took some of that ink away? So now I'm going to have it standing up a little bit more than I did in the original card. And I'm going to stamp it. And now that bottom piece of the shovel is no longer there. And once we get our sand in, it's going to look like it's actually in the sand. I'm going to stop with my stamping at this point, whereas with the first card, I did all of my stamping. And I have a reason why. I'll explain that later. But first, what I want to do is get my coloring all set up. So to do that, first I want my sand. So I'm just using a pencil, just so that I can get kind of a shape that I want the sand to be, so that it looks like we're kind of on the edge, right, of like a dune or something. I've got some Copics here. I have E31, E35, and E25. I don't even remember if these are all the colors that I used last time. I think they are, but who knows. So I'm just going to very quickly, make sure you get behind that handle there, color this in. And I'm not worried about it being super smooth. I am using Hammermill cardstock. I've been playing with this. My friend Tana sent me some, and I've been playing with it, and I really like it. Don't worry about the pencil line. That'll be gone. I'll erase that later. I'm just going to color this in. And we've got this broken edge here, which is going to play to our advantage because it's going to look like it's actually in the sand now. Okay, so now what I did on the first one, I actually kind of like, I don't know if it's right or wrong or whatever, but I like it. I'm going to fix this edge a little bit. Just bring that out a little bit more. Oh, that's better. I like this kind of dotted effect. I'm not so good with pointillism or any of that stuff. I find it to be really tedious and hard for me to do. But I wanted to create some shadow and whatnot. So I'm going to just really carefully tap just the edge of the tip of my Copic all along here to kind of create a shadow and give the illusion of texture. You can do the whole thing. You can skip this if you want to. You could just do regular shading if you want to. But I don't know. I wanted it to look kind of grainy because it's sand. So I just did this over and over and over again to give that effect. And we're going to do that around our shovel. Again, to make it look like it's really in the ground. I'm sorry if you hear my dogs barking, but there are people all over today walking around and, you know, enjoying being outside, and my dogs are not happy about it. That's Dory barking, if you can hear her. I'm sure you can because she's quite loud. So I'm going to keep going with that, but then I'm also going to add this one. This is E25. This is like my favorite brown, Carib Cocoa. And just fill in some more dots like so. Different sizes are good because if you think of sand, there's different sized granules in there, right? And having different layers of color make it more interesting, right? So that's kind of the way I'm going. And then I'll go back in with my 31 and just add some more. And I tend to go a little heavier with the lighter color just to kind of get things to blend because I don't want perfect dots all over. You see how that's turning out? You see the difference here to here? It's just kind of mushing them together and making it look a little bit more blended and not quite so, well, like pointillism. Anyway, I'm going to finish that up and then we'll move on. So that's my sand pretty much done. I don't think I'm going to add any more to it, but I think it's all right. We'll see. I've got R37, R35, and R29, and we're going to color our bucket. I've also got T4 and T2. We're going to use that for the shovel, plus the Carib Cocoa, the E25. So let's start with the bucket. Got my E35. Just going to go in, and we're not doing crazy coloring here, you guys. We're just keeping it pretty simple. And if you don't want to use red, don't use red. Use whatever color you want. I just wanted it to really stand out, which I think is what I lost a little bit in the original card. I think that the bucket didn't seem like it was quite as important anymore because I had that huge red mat around it. We're going to try and make that bucket more important again. So I'm just going in with my, what is this number? 29. Trying to make it round. I'm using kind of the side of the brush tip here. I love this color. I want that to be a bit darker because that's the inside. And then I'm going to go in with my 37. Blend this out a bit. And then I'll go back with the 35. These are not exactly the same reds that I used. I hadn't used the 35 on the original. I don't remember what color it was, so forgive me. Use what you've got. And again, if you don't want to use a red have a red bucket, then don't have a red bucket. So I've got my T4, and I'm going to just color that handle. And then we're going to use the 37 on this handle. Like that. I'm going to go in with my 29. And a little shading, nothing crazy. And then I've got my Caribe Cocoa. And then I've got my T2. Color this whole piece in. And then I'll go in with the 4. Nothing crazy, but you see now it looks like it's actually in the sand. And I feel like that right there already makes it a bit more interesting, right? Okay, so we're done with that coloring. Now before I add my other stamped elements, I'm going to go in with Hot Tub ink from Catherine Pooler. Move this off to the side. And I am going to just, this is the wrong brush. That was my gray brush. Hold on. Let's make sure that this is pretty clean. Not really. I'm just cleaning it off to the side a little bit. Okay. All right, now, it's probably not going to be the pure color, but that's okay. Just going in on the side. I don't want to use a bright happy blue because this is a miss you card. Yeah, it's not exactly the right color, but that's fine. It's kind of a grayish blue. All right, that's pretty good. Gives kind of an overcast look that I really like. Okay. Now I've got my VersaFine Clair in Nocturne, and I'm not using the Tuxedo Black anymore because when I had originally made this card, I used the Tuxedo Black on everything, and because it's a dye-based ink, just like the Catherine Pooler inks, it smudged a little bit. Most people probably wouldn't notice, but I did, and it annoyed me. It's not a big deal. It's just not as crisp as I would like. I could go in, since I've already done my ink blending, and use the Tuxedo Black, but there's something so special about the VersaFine Clairs, so I'm going to just use those. So I've got my seagull. This is the first seagull. And we're going to put that fella right here. And I will, of course, show you a comparison of the two in a minute. Okay, and now I'm going to get the little seagulls that are flying, you know, they're still pretty far back. Don't press too hard because then they'll kind of splay out and be a bit messy. Okay, and then I'm going to get my Miss You, and we will ink that up as well. Perfect. Let's close this up before I make a mess because that's bound to happen. Okay, so you could see the difference. I did really want this color, but it's fine. I should have cleaned my brush off better. Can you see how much crisper this is and the seagulls are on this one? It's because of the dye based. When you use dye with dye, they're going to want to blend together. But since I did this on top and with a Nocturne, which is a pigment ink, there's none of that bleeding or anything. Okay, so let's clean this up and we're going to start to assemble our card. I adhered my colored panel to my black cardstock because we all know how to do that. And now I've got this Mulberry paper. This is still different from what I had originally intended. I was going to just use regular plain colored pale blue cardstock, but then I found this in my stash and I said, you know what, this is really going to be so pretty. So I need to trim this down. But look at how nice it looks with that. Even with this different color that I had planned on using because it was on my brush, the residual ink on my brush, it's like perfect. So we need to trim this down first. So I'm going to, and I know you can't see me, but I am tripping over my stool right now. Okay, I'm going to trim this down a bit. We're going to make this 4. And this is still kind of long, but that's okay. I have an idea for what we're going to do with it. Okay, move this off to the side. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but on this one, I tore the bottom. I love torn edges. I really do. So for this, we're going to tear it, but it's mulberry paper, so you want to do it differently. So I've got my water, and I'm going to carefully spray the bottom a little bit, and then I'm just going to pull. Don't worry about that big piece right there. We'll fix that. Let's see. Look at those fibers. Can you see that? Isn't that so pretty? I love mulberry paper. And actually, I need to come up more. I don't want to come up too high, so I'm being kind of conservative with how much I'm tearing off here. Isn't that pretty? The way it just comes apart like that? Oh yeah, that looks good. Isn't that fab? Okay, let's clean this up because I'll wind up getting water everywhere. Okay, so now this is very translucent. Okay, so you could see my fingers through there. You don't want to put glue on here the same way you wouldn't want to put glue on vellum where it can be seen because it's going to show. So I'm going to glue this to this, and then where that piece is, I will add glue on the mulberry paper, and that's it. So it's going to float a little bit, but it's such a pretty look. It really, really looks good. Okay, so I'm going to add some glue here and move on. Okay, there's only glue where my colored panel is and the black. And now I'm going to just adhere this down like so. Oh, look at that. See? It just kind of floats there, and it's so pretty. It actually would be really nice if I tore all of the edges, but I didn't want to get crazy. So, there are our 2 cards. Which do you like better? Which do you prefer? I have to say, this was the right thing to do. I should have gone with my gut the first time and gone with the light blue. Although it's a good learning experience. And again, I don't dislike this card. I do like it, but I feel like the red is so overpowering here. It's taking away from the somberness of missing someone. Whereas this works with the sky. The bucket is really the whole point of the card. And yeah, I just think it's better. So I'd love to know what you think in the comments. Do you like the way I did the shovel here? Do you think that it's better this way or this way? I like it better this way. It's more dynamic. It's more interesting. Feels like the scene is really connected. As opposed to this just kind of laying here like that. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you learned a couple of things. I hope that you trust your gut, and if you don't and feel like you need to redo something to make it better, do it. Just give it a go. It's just paper, guys. You can do it. All right. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I will be back very soon with another card. Be well, stay safe. Peace out.